read something that Ram Dass wrote. If anybody knows me, they know I love Ram Dass for many, many reasons. But Ram Dass wrote, I don't need to be special anymore because I don't relate to the illusion of separation, which made me keep trying to prove that I was something. I am part of the universe, as the tree is, as the grass is, or the water is, like storms and like roses. I am just part of it all. I don't need to be special anymore because I don't relate to the illusion of separation, which made me keep trying to prove that I was something. I am part of the universe, as the tree is, as the grass is, or the water is, like storms, like roses. I'm just a part of it all. So, if Ram Dass believed that he was part of it all, part of the universe, then I would assume there was no place to escape to. And yet in the major religions, we're taught that this life is not where it's at. This is not where it's happening. This is not where the cool kids are. We got to get to where the cool kids are. We're always missing something. But if you read this book, brother, and if you go to... Listen to me, brother. Put your hand on the screen. And let me pray for you right now so you can be a part of the cool kids. Send in 1995 for your ticket to heaven. So, I've done a lot of talking today. I want to kick it out to you. What are some thoughts that arise about all this mumbo jumbo that I'm talking about?
Is that what you posted that on Facebook, right?
What?
What you just read?
Yes.
Yeah, I when I was reading it, I was like, I don't remember reading that before. That was, I really liked that idea of, everybody's out to be something, to be different, it's like, we're unique unto ourselves because we're human, but as far as Buddhism goes, the only uniqueness is our ability to become enlightened in this life, right?
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I mean, I just didn't. So, in some ways, it is special, this lifetime, but it's not a separate special, right?
Well, yeah, in Buddhism...
Hold on, I gotta take this call because I think it's Magenta.
Okay. Yeah, Buddhism says that the human life is special because it's the only place you can find enlightenment. But once again, it's to get off the wheel of suffering. So...
But what if the humans are unique because they're the only ones to find enlightenment? Because they're the only life on this planet that's actually asleep. That everything else is already enlightened.
I never heard that before. Sounds good to me. That's something about dogs not worried about tomorrow.
The lilies of the field.
Mm-hmm.
They don't worry. They're already clothed in majesty. The birds don't worry about the limb that they're sitting on cracking because they can fly away. I mean, all of those things show the levels of enlightenment that we're trying to attain, and that we don't have to, if we do look outside ourselves for that. And even I grew up in the Christian tradition with the Protestant Bible. It tells us that we can see the glory of God in all the creation around us, that we don't need a text. And one of the things that you keep talking about the major religions, and the thing that I think they all have in common is is a power over paradigm where there is a hierarchy. There's someone that has the answer that you're supposed to look to, like an earthly authority, and they dangle the carrot in front of you of something beyond this existence, and you got to trust them because nobody knows for sure, right? And so they lull you into this idea that you can believe them, or that you have to have belief in them, but there's no proof, and so then they dangle this word faith, but everything that is attainable is right before your eyes. Like it is, we are in heaven, and we're creating our own hell.
Thank you, Shane.
I think that the difference between us and the animals that surround us is that they 100% live in the moment. They live externally. They do things according to their surroundings. They react due to their surroundings. When they're hungry, they eat. When they're cold, they find a warmer place. And they don't think about tomorrow, and they don't think about themselves or what they mean in the larger world. We do that. And we're some of the few, at least that we know of, on this planet that do that. And I think that is the gift that we're given, is the ability. We know, because we come from animals, we know about the external. We understand it. We can live that way, but there's a lesson in there. We didn't come here to live externally. We came here to learn internally, to look at ourselves, to understand why, what, and I think that goes to what you're saying is, instead of looking forward, we should just be paying attention to what happens internally. And once that's achieved, then from that point, you can change your external by your internal once you've reached that point. So I think that's what we're here for. I don't want to step on anyone's beliefs as far as these other religions that you talk about. Although I think it is important to remember there is a level of control that goes with any religion. It's not written to help you. It's written to control you. What you do with it is what it means to you. It's not, the people that wrote it down weren't thinking this is really going to help a lot of people. I mean, maybe some people along the way have been, but essentially, that's why it's always looking to the future. It's playing on our ability to, for example, if you think about a vacation, part of the fun is looking forward to it. It's planning it. It's thinking about all the wonderful things you're going to do. And some people never actually enjoy the vacation. They only enjoy the preparation and they're looking forward to it. And when it happens, there's almost a disappointment at the end because now it's over. So, that's what that religion kind of plays into. Look forward. Look what do all these right things and you get to this wonderful place. And I personally believe it's getting kind of crowded in there right now. So, maybe we should be looking more, like you said, looking right now, worried about heaven and hell when that's a creation. All religions have some form of it or fashion, but
Thank you, Josh.
Sorry about that. I was waiting on COVID-19 results. They were negative, so.
All right.
Yay!
That's good. Especially since we sleep together in the same bed.
I know. I didn't even.
I'm glad you don't have COVID. So, another thing I was telling Diane last night, we were talking about how limited knowledge is, even in today's world with the internet. So, like, I'm always reading books from spiritual leaders, but that I'm getting spiritual knowledge from a written book assumes that the person with the insight, A, is literate and knows how to write, has the desire to write down their wisdom, can find a publisher, or B, somebody hears this wisdom in their own language and they have the desire to write it down and they have the desire to find a publisher. And even if you have a great spiritual leader with insight and they are literate and they do have the desire to write it down and they do find a publisher and it does get published, the chances of me finding this book is limited. And that is written in my language, a language that I read or translated. And so it's even with the internet. You know, I don't know how all the content gets on the internet. You know, me and Josh were working on the car and we pulled up several videos about how to change out the water pump. What makes so many people want to video themselves changing the water pump? I don't know. But they're constantly adding content. But it's only going to be useful for me if it's in a language that I can understand and I can find it. You know, over and over in various ways, true wisdom, true knowledge, I would say would have to reside within us, because being able to find it in the world is a chance coincidence that someone that knows the ultimate truth would be able to get that on paper and get it out there for me to find it and read it. And they're writing at a certain level of consciousness, but I'm reading at a different level of consciousness. So even if they have perfect insight into the nature of the world, they're writing it down at such a high consciousness level where when I read it, it's mumbo jumbo to me and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't register to me, you know? So ultimately, insight would have to come from within. I would never be able to find it in the world. I could only find somebody else's insight, and if I happen to be at the same consciousness level as them. But this book says that there's several ways to look at the world throughout history, right? The world is good, bad, duality. Everything spiritual is related to life and light, and let me see if I can find that. Everything spiritual is love, light, life, joy, peace, and God. Everything associated to the world is evil, death, darkness, fear, separation, pain, ignorance, ego, and they're on totally different sides of the spectrum. Everything negative is on this planet and in this life, and everything on the other side of the spectrum, that's light and love and perfection, is on the other side, and that's some spirituality. And then there's other people that some spiritual outlooks that we're in a school. Life is a school of awakening, and we're here to ultimately gain insight and enlightenment. Life is a school of hard knocks, where you're here to learn the lessons you need to escape. And then there's the non-dualist perspective, like we've kind of been mentioning, that this is, samsara. Buddhism even says, ultimately there's this huge doctrine in Buddhism that you have to swallow like the roast beef. But when you talk to a realized master, they do say it's about being right now. It's being in this moment. It's about being compassionate and being awakened to everything in this now moment. Not going to the future, not going to the past, just finding happiness right here where you sit. If you don't find happiness on this spot, you're not going to find it anywhere else. If you don't find happiness on this cushion, it's not out there. Ultimately, that's what the Buddha said. And Buddhism also says that nirvana is samsara. Samsara is nirvana. It's just a change in your perception. So while you go through life thinking that you're in samsara and suffering, once you awaken a little bit, you realize that you've always been in nirvana. You've always been awakened. You've always been in heaven. And you've never left the cushion. You've never left your town or your country. It's just the perception has changed. So, what do you think about that? About the world as a school, or the world being evil and spirituality being light, or samsara is nirvana? Any thoughts on that?
I always want to give somebody else an opportunity to talk.
To me, I think I think you made a good point about like how you gotta like take other people's insight with a grain of salt, at least a little bit. Like you can never, I think even if it's like someone like the Dalai Lama, I think you should realistically like kind of test it out for yourself. But I think the fact that like all those things are so inseparable, like the suffering from the enlightenment, I think it just shows. To me, it makes me feel all the more imperative to practice that sort of stuff, because it's not gonna happen like on its own. It's got to happen through like trial and error. That's kind of how I see it.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'm trying to explain it. So when I was meditating, I was staring out our back door window, and there's like 50 shades of green out there. But I was thinking, and it goes into, so when the sun is shining, which right now it's overcast, those colors are different. I mean, obviously they're not different, but to me they look different when the sun is shining, which, I don't know. I don't know the physics of it, so maybe they are different because of light bouncing back at me. But so when you are learning about insights from others, I think that you can use that kind of as a metaphor, because it either gives you a cloudy feeling because you're not understanding completely, so the colors are different, or it shines a light on certain things, so you're seeing it in a different way, which some you may not have seen it in that way without taking that insight into consideration, which goes back to, I guess, what Malcolm said. You take it with a grain of salt, you test it out, you see where it applies to you. Does it work in your life? Does this truly make sense? Like if I meditate for 15 minutes, at the end of that 15 minutes, where am I? If I really take a inventory as I'm meditating of my body. Am I tense? Am I tight? At the end of this, am I feeling a little more relaxed? Do I feel a little more in tune with where I'm at right now in this moment? So I don't know. That kind of meshed together for me.
Thank you, Diane.
I think there's a great example in what you said about us watching YouTube videos to fix your car. So you would think talking about a car that's manufactured on the assembly line, everything would be the same with every car. And so if you read an instruction manual, it's simple, it's easy. And there's a YouTube video with somebody saying, oh, this should take you 45 minutes. This is so easy, it's no problem. But there's a lot of variables even in that. What's your skill level? You know, is that someone that packed a bunch of tools into a motorcycle and drove an hour out to town to fix a car, you know, with 100-degree heat? No. You know, does that take into account how much rust or corrosion or grime or mud might be on it? No. And also we watched that video and there was things that weren't the same. So maybe I have the wrong year of the car that I'm looking at. Maybe they have the wrong year of the car they're looking at. So even when it comes to instructions, you have to kind of look at that and critically look at that and say, okay, well, you know, did they tell me how to do it? No, but they gave me some pointers and there were some, you know, important things to try to figure out. How do you do this? How do you do that? Maybe I could pick something out of that. I think of what you just described as you have someone thinking on a four-dimensional level that then tries to put that into three-dimensional terms and put it into a two-dimensional medium that you then have to reconstruct, take it from a two-dimensional, think of it on a three-dimensional, and try to figure out the four-dimensional aspects of that. So you're like translating it, you know, as you're trying to read it or figure it out or whatever you're doing. So, you know, that is a rough guide at best. Even with us speaking, you know, you can sit here and listen to me talk and be like, this guy's freaking nuts and I wish he'd be quiet. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you know, that actually makes sense. Totally depends on your frame of mind and, you know, where you're at and whether you're willing to or want to, you know, hear it, try to understand it.
Thank you, Josh. Pushing away the world, how could that cause suffering in our lives if we're following a religion that pushes the world away? And do we do that even if we're not following a religion? What do we push away all day long? The phone rings, I don't want to answer it. Somebody comes in, I don't want to talk to them. I got to do that project, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to work today. Or I'm off and I don't want to be in the house today. Everything is being pushed away from us. And everything is coming to an end, even that vacation. And you're trying to push away the end of the vacation, but it's always going to come. So, acceptance of what is, I assume, could be a part of enlightenment. Any closing thoughts?
Well, if it's closing, I have something to say.
Okay.
So I feel like that when I think of Ram Dass, I always think of be here now. Like just be here now. Be present. Concern yourself with what comes your way. And I think that it's fair to know that we're not always in a position to do that, as limited as we are as human beings. And so, but there's the concept of holding space that I don't know if that's a familiar term with everybody, but it's just about being here now, being aware, and just holding yourself into this feeling of balance or equanimity, no matter what news or project or event or problem that you have to deal with comes your way, and knowing that you will have that resource to take care of it, and that the universe, or that which you call God or whatever, provides that for you when you're in the zone, so to speak. And that's something that I feel like is my calling right now, is to hold space. And also as a storyteller, which we all are to some degree on the spectrum, we all tell the stories of whatever, of our lives, of the lives around us, that the future doesn't exist. It's a story that we are all collectively creating. And so the more that you buy into someone's story that's in contradiction to the story that you want it to be, I feel like the more suffering you feel. And like the more that you can claim autonomy apart from other people's stories and embody a story that brings you to a center, whether you have the uniqueness, the power, the special whatever to bring that into fruition or not, I'm feeling the understanding that that's not, I don't have to be right. Like I just know that this is what I want things to look like. This is what I want the world to look like. And I got to watch Pollyanna because Katie's got Disney Plus again. So I got to see it again. And like, she changed an entire town because she wanted it to look like something. And like, I want them now to do a remake of that, like to modernize it and everything. And she didn't do anything but be true to herself and constantly question, well, why does it have to be that way? And this was a little girl who had lost her parents, that had lived in suffering, that had never had a doll, that had hand-me-down clothes, that had all the reasons to bemoan her situation, but because of her father had these tools to look for the bright side and constantly create a world that she wanted to live in. And I just think that that sometimes we have to hold that space of how we want things to be and feel it in the now to bring it, to manifest it into our existence. And the more that we collect people who don't buy in to the story that's told to them, that if it feels right, go for it. But if it creates suffering, I think it's perfect to question and reject the pieces that make you feel inadequate, that make you feel less than, that make you feel like there's something more to do to achieve this incredible thing that we have, which is our lives. And there's a book that's called The Same Kind of Different as Me. But yes, we are all just completely unique expressions of the same exact thing. And anyway, that's the space that I'm trying to hold into the be here now, is knowing that I am unique and divine and special, just like everybody else. And I want a better world, and so I see it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Okay, any closing thoughts before we jump into the chanting and close it up?
I just want to say that I appreciate you guys. I know I haven't been too active in here, but I've been listening and hanging out in the background. But I appreciate all of y'all, like, kind of giving y'all's personal input on things and, like, making it a little more personal for me to understand things. So, yeah, I think.
We love you, Yo Shailene.
Love you.
Love you. Glad you're here.
Me too.
All right, Diane, you want to pull up the chant book?
Sure. Is that the right place?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Contemplation of the 10 perfecting qualities. May I be generous and helpful. May I be pure, virtuous, and well-disciplined. May I not be selfish. May I be strenuous and energetic and persevering. May I be patient. May I be able to bear and forbear the wrongs of others. May I be honest and truthful. May I be firm and resolute. May I be kind, compassionate, and friendly. May I be humble, calm, quiet, unruffled, and serene. And it's okay on some days if I'm not all that. But I want to be those things. But I'm going to be kind to myself if I'm not. Discourse on loving kindness. Just as a mother would protect her only child even at her own life's risk, so let everyone cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let our hearts of boundless love pervade the whole world, so that all beings without exception might be happy. Even people of a different political party. Closing dedication of merit. If I have attained any merit by the result of this practice, may it be accredited to all beings everywhere. May they find the source of suffering and extinguish it. May they find the source of happiness and increase it. May all beings dwell in ultimate unalloyed nibbana. We'll bow to the shrine 3 times. Bow to the bread. Bow to the mashed potatoes. Bow to the roast beef. Bow to your Sangha brothers and sisters with smiles of gratitude. All right, we did it again, folks.